Hello and welcome to my channel, and welcome back to my birth month flower series. For the month of May, we are creating a hawthorn. We're going to be using watercolors. I'm going to show you how to draw some of the petals and the leaves. So I hope that you're going to grab your watercolors and join me. For the supplies today, I'm going to be using the Tropical set by Prima. And I'm going to be using a few different brushes. I have a rigger brush or a liner brush, as well as my number 10 round Princeton brush. And I'm also using a Princeton number 6 round. I also grabbed a 10-inch and 8-inch filbert. I don't end up using those, but I kind of had them off to the side just in case. And the colors I'm going to be using from the set are Sunset, Pitaya, I'm not sure, Pineapple plus Parrot, Island, and Tiki. So let me show you how to create some of the flowers. You're going to draw a circle for the size that you want. And for this one, it's an oval, technically. I found the center of the flower. And this one's going to be folded, so you're only going to see part of the petals, which is why I went ahead and made it more like an oval. So once I draw the oval, then I'll kind of draw in the petals following the guide that I created for myself. So this petal will be folded, this front one, so I drew the little kind of squiggly line, and then I also added it to a couple of the other petals. And then I'm just kind of putting in some of the directional stamens that I'll add once I'm painting it. This one's going to be facing forward, so I have the dot in the center. And the petals are rounded on the outer edge. I actually go in as I'm painting and kind of correct some of them. As I'm drawing these right now, I actually feel like they might be a little bit flatter than I wanted them to be. This one's going to be kind of like it would be facing to the right. So I'm putting in the petals, again, following the shape. And that front one is kind of foreshortened because it's technically folded. So you're seeing kind of the underside of the petals. As far as the berries are concerned, those are just ovals basically, and then I kind of end up putting like a little dot on the end just to show you like the tip of the berry. And the leaves are rounded towards the stem and have like a serrated pointy edge. And I actually kind of put those in later with the paint and with the liner as kind of a finishing touch. And then this leaf is actually kind of more from the side, so I just wanted to show you another way to draw your leaves. And now I'm just going to lightly sketch in the composition so I kind of know where I want the flowers to be placed, and then I'll just build the painting after that. And I do change my composition just a little bit so it will look a little bit different than the painting on the left. I ended up grabbing my number 3 round Princeton brush to create little dots for the center of the flowers, and I used a mixture of mostly pineapple with just a touch of parrot to make the coloring more of a yellow green. And then using my 6-inch, I'm going to start building the petals, and I'm using it's more like a wash of the sunset, so there's a little bit more water for the first layer. Right there, I just thought I put a little bit too much down, so I'm just picking it up a little bit with my brush. And as I move along, as I said earlier, I actually will kind of change the petals a little bit. I thought they looked a little bit flat. They needed be a little bit more rounded around the edges. The important thing to remember is to leave a little bit of a white gap between the center of the flower and the petals. I don't outline the petal really first. I kind of try to put the paint down and pull it in one direction. I'm pulling it kind of towards the center and leaving that white little edge between that and the center of the flower. And then while it's still wet, I'm going in with a creamy consistency of that redder color, the pitaya, however you pronounce it. just so it kind of adds a little bit more dimension around the petals. And doing it while it's still wet, it will kind of help it to diffuse naturally. And then I'm just going to continue working around the painting, creating all of the petals on the flowers. I'm switching between my number 6 and my number 3. I'm laying down the pinky color with the number 6, and then I'm going back in with the number 3 to drop in that redder color. I like to do that so I'm not continuously rinsing out the paint color that I'm using and just kind of wasting it. So I just use 2 different brushes so that I'm able to just kind of preserve more of my paint. So for the berries, I'm just gonna work my way around the painting, creating little ovals. And I'm using the pitaya color, which is the redder color, and I'm using a very creamy consistency. And then when I wanna go in and add that little dot on the end of the berry, I'm actually using a mixture of the pitaya and that island green color. It makes a little bit of a darker, richer red color so that I can differentiate between the berry and the berry tip. Okay, now for the branches, and I'm using that brownish kind of tiki color. I just kind of put them in first, and then I'll go back over them later to kind of deepen them in a little bit. Now I'm going in with a creamy consistency of that sunset to add a little bit of definition to the folds of the petals. And now I'm going in and I'm just flicking my brush around the petals to add a little bit more dimension. And then there are like little striations within each petal. So I thought that would just add a little bit more texture and interest. Now I'm going back in with that mixture of the pitaya and the island color to deepen back in the little tips of the berries. For the leaves, I'm using a fairly creamy consistency of the parrot color, but then I go back in with the island color, which is a little bit of a darker green, and just kind of drop that in around the edges to create some shadow and depth to each of the leaves. And I just work my way around the painting, adding some wherever I think there might need a pop of color, or if I think there's more weight in one area and I want to kind of even everything out. And then I'm going back in with that tiki color. It's creamy consistency to add a few more of the stems and then to deepen in the branches. And then I'm also adding some of the thorns that are also sticking out on the branches. I dried the painting off camera, and then now using a 0.01 fine liner, I go around and just add a loose outline around everything just to kind of add a little bit more definition between all the petals and add some more interest and texture into the leaves. proof white from Dr. Bronner's and my dagger or liner brush, I go in and put in the stamens. And then I'll take the tiki color and add the little brown dots at the end of those stamens. Using that bleed-proof white, I decided to add just a little bit of splatter because, you know, I have a little bit of addiction to the splatter. And I decided to go ahead and write the word Hawthorn at the bottom. So when I was looking at this painting, I decided that I wanted to deepen the petal colors a little bit. I feel like it's not dynamic enough. So I mixed up a little bit more of the sunset. It's not a wash necessarily, but it's not a super creamy consistency. And then I mixed up a little bit more of Hetair. It's kind of that reddish color. So I'm going in and I'm just kind of swiping real quick a little bit of that pink. I'm not going to fuss with it too much because it can then remove and mess with the color I've already put down. And then I'm going in with a little bit of that more reddish color. And here I'm only going to go in to the inside of the petal because it's actually folded over, so I can kind of deepen that color. I just really felt like it needed a little something. A little something something. You know, I like the pizzazz, and it just needed to be deepened in a little bit. So I'm going to go through and do that really quick. I'm still avoiding the center because that is white. I'm literally just going into the petals. I'm putting a little bit of extra darkness right where those petals are folded. Can even add a little bit more texture by adding some more of those little lines. It's always good to take an opportunity if you can to create some texture, some depth, movement, all those things in order to make your paintings a little bit more dynamic. You just have to remember to go the direction of the petal. There, I think that really helped just add a little bit more dimension. And then if I want to go back in and add the little whites of the stamens, I can do that as well. So I have my Posca pen. It is 0.7 millimeters, so it's one of the skinniest ones. And then I can just go in. It doesn't show up quite as nicely as the bleed proof white, but I'm just using it anyways. It's a little faster. And remember, you want to go in the direction of the petals, kind of being aware of where your little stamen points are. I think that's a little bit more dynamic, so I think that's really pretty. So there's our Hawthorn. Thank you so much for joining me today for my birth month flower series and creating this Hawthorn. I hope you will join me next time. If you enjoy my videos, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing my videos. It really will help my channel grow, and I'm really enjoying creating these videos for you. So I will see you next time, and take care of yourselves, and thanks so much. Bye.